Okay, good evening and welcome to the Iowa City Foreign Relations Council's program featuring guest speakers from a university community collaboration. And thank you for those of us joining us live stream as well. All of our programs are now in person and virtual. My name is Peter Gerlach and I am ICFRC's Executive Director. Today's event, I want to tell you, is special in another way. Not just because of the program you'll be hearing about, but it is a part of Welcoming Week across the Iowa City area. And ICFRC is a proud planning committee member to help enact this great national campaign for welcoming for refugees and immigrants in our community. And if you want to learn more about Welcoming Week and the really sort of amazing national kind of campaign that is going on this week in communities across the United States, you can go to the website that we've set up for that, which is welcomeicarea.org. I also want to tell you that this year Iowa City is celebrating, ICFRC is celebrating its 40th anniversary. We have some great plans this year with a total of 4 events devoted to celebrating our supporters, our legacy in the community, and the bright future ahead for internationally focused programming. You can check out our website, sign up for monthly newsletters, and follow us on social media to learn more about all the exciting stuff happening this year. As always, ICFRC wants to acknowledge and thank its annual donors, sponsors, and partners for that support. This list includes the Iowa Arts Council through the Iowa Department of Cultural Affairs, Humanities Iowa and the National Endowment for the Humanities, the University of Iowa's International Programs, Honors Program and Public Policy Center, the Stanley UI Foundation Support Organization, Midwest One Bank, Taxes Plus, City Channel 4 for providing online access to all of ICFRC's programs, along with the UI Library Archives, as well as, of course, where we are now, the Iowa City Public Library for being our new home for programs. And last, but of course not least, the long-standing support from individuals who have helped our organization grow for 40 years, many of whom are in the audience today. ICFRC has adopted the Native American Land Acknowledgement, prepared for the City of Iowa City's Ad Hoc Truth and Reconciliation Commission and Human Rights Commission. ICFRC recognizes that our home community of Iowa City now occupies homelands of Native American nations to whom we owe our commitment and dedication. The full text of our acknowledgement is on our website at icfrc.org. So now I would like to introduce our panel. Dr. Carolyn Colvin is an associate professor of English education at the University of Iowa. Carolyn has been a community-engaged scholar with the West Liberty community since 1993. In addition to facilitating adult literacy classes, she has created a mentoring recruitment program for West Liberty high school students. Approximately 300 of those students have come to the University of Iowa since its inception in 2010. That's quite a thing. Erica Jennings is in her 8th year teaching English education in West Liberty. She is a graduate of the University of Iowa's Teacher Education Program with BA and master's degrees in English education and possesses Spanish fluency. I'm jealous. Dan Stevenson is in his 17th year of full-time teaching in West Liberty as a middle school social studies teacher and is a conversationally fluent Spanish speaker. I'm also jealous of that. Dan has taught in international settings in addition to West Liberty. Jan Koellner taught for 33 years in West Liberty as a teacher of reading, English, and early childhood, and has been a West Liberty resident for the last 46 years. Jan has been actively supported English learners, both children and adults, for many years. And Nancy Gardner has taught for 33 years in West Liberty. She was a special education teacher for 14 years and a principal at West Liberty Elementary School for 19 of those years. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our speakers who will talk about what does it mean to be a good citizen, a university community collaboration in rural Iowa.
Peter, we want to thank you for inviting us to present here tonight. It isn't something that we have gotten to do often, and so it's a pleasure for all of us to talk to you about this program that started in March of 2017, shortly after the presidential election, and continued until about March of 2020, when COVID caused us to close down. The guiding question for me throughout this program has been, what does it mean to be a good citizen? I'm a teacher, so I like to walk around. What does it mean to be a good citizen? For those of us who have citizenship bestowed by virtue of birth, there are implications. And we're going to talk to you about a group of residents in West Liberty who faced the challenges and the opportunities of becoming a naturalized citizen. The program we'll share tonight will last until about 7 o'clock, and then we're going to open it up for questions. We're going to talk to you about how we started this program, how we fund it, how we make it work on a weekly basis, and get ready. We're going to give you a few questions from the naturalization test to see how well you all do. At least two themes are present tonight. I want to talk to you about a university-community partnership. This used to be a tradition back in the 1880s, actually legislation setting up the higher education system, the Hatch Act, the Morrill Act, required that universities engage with communities to help address some of the most complicated problems they faced. So we're going to talk about why university people should partner with communities and talk about why communities can benefit from the partnership with the university. A second theme is the importance of citizenship. I'll say a little bit more about this later, but one of the reasons we started this program in January of 2017, we called a group of West Liberty folks together to talk about the implications of the discourse around the election regarding immigrants and immigrant communities and how immigrant families were crossing the border and doing harm to Middle America. So it was a community-wide effort that brought this program together, and that leads to a wonderful discussion about how unique West Liberty is. I'm not a native Iowan, and I regret that I don't know more about some of the communities, but I think West Liberty is remarkable in its support of the majority population in West Liberty. 62% speak a first language other than English. And I'd be remiss without mentioning the importance of the dual language program that's been in place under Nancy's leadership since 1998, 2000, through a Title VII grant. That's made a huge difference. We often talk about community activists and teacher activism. And these four people and others who couldn't be with us here tonight are activists, perhaps quietly, doing much to change the lives of people in their community in really significant ways, and they've been involved for a long time. Jan Koellner keeps us honest. She is a resident of West Liberty for the last 46 years and has been really involved in working with second language folks for many years before this program. I want to talk a little bit about, this is the West Liberty Main Street. Here's a quote that I want to share with you. I'll be quiet and let you read it. When I was a grad student, I read Ernest Boyer's wonderful Scholarship of Engagement, and it stayed with me. Particularly relevant now in this time when higher ed is facing many challenges, financial, enrollment. How do we spend the money that we have? Do we create new programs? I believe in what Boyer said to us, that we need a larger clarity of direction in our nation's life, creating a special climate in which academic and civic cultures communicate more continuously and creatively with each other. And I hope we show to you tonight that this is something we've done. This is a meeting of people who became tutors, who volunteered to become tutors, community people, students, in March of 2017, when we met to talk about the naturalization test. It was a powerful moment, and then about 2 weeks later, we welcomed about 45 adults who wanted to participate in the classes we were going to offer, ranging in age from 18 through maybe 75. And we'll talk more about why they wanted to go through the naturalization process and how we enacted this instruction. Community university partnerships are collaborative arenas for knowledge development in which the professional researcher's knowledge is combined with the local knowledge. Together, we designed this program, and we made it work. We met 10 months out of the year, once a week, in various settings in the West Liberty School District. Sometimes in the summer it was really hot and miserable, but the students showed up, and that's the benefit we received. Together, the parties develop plans of action to improve a situation, and they evaluate together with the adults who came to our program what was working. So that's the essence of this community partnership. These are three key components of the civic engagement project. Reciprocity. As a researcher, I can't be the only one who benefits from a project like this. West Liberty and its residents have to benefit too. So it can't just be a researcher coming in to take data from a community and then the community never sees that person again. Reciprocity is key. We must go in with an asset-based understanding of what this community is. If we go in trying to look for faults and fissures in the community, a project like this won't work. Finally, this is academic work done with the public. With is an important word. It's not academic work done in a community, it's with a community. I'm going to add one more item. For community engaged research, we gauge the impact on the community rather than the impact of the publications that come out of it. So it must impact the community in ways that bring benefit to the community. We believe that pedagogy is really a sustained dialogue with lots of storytelling on both the part of the tutor and the adults who join us. In the process, we discovered how intertwined our interests were in communities and living lives, education for children. The citizenship program opened the university community in a small way to rural residents who might not otherwise feel as though they were able to come to the university. I'll tell a story about that later on. Civic participation gazes invites questions about providing education for all of the residents, breaking down the academy walls. So with that, that's a preview of community engagement and a little bit about why we did what we did. I'm going to turn it over to Nancy Gardner, who's going to invite you to take a test on the naturalization test.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nancy Gardner, and I am the retired principal from West Liberty Elementary School. And I actually, the year I retired was in 2017 when the program started. And so, as Carolyn said, it was coming up in the spring. And of course, when you start to retire, you think, what on earth will I do with my free time? And so this idea just hit me. It really did. I have such a passion for West Liberty and the kids and the community. And so I was at that beginning meeting, and I've been a tutor with the program ever since. And it's one of those experiences where we're doing a lot for those that want to become citizens, but we get much more out of it. So it's one of those great situations. So let me hit the slide here. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the application and a little bit about the exam. First of all, we have to make sure that the people that are coming to citizenship class qualify. And to qualify, they must have a legal resident card. You've probably heard it referred to as a green card. And also, they must have lived in the United States for 5 years. So that's how they qualify. Second, there is an application that they must fill out that is submitted to the Department of Immigration there in Des Moines. It is a very extensive application. It's 20 pages or so. They want to know everything about the individual, where they have worked, where they have lived, anything about spouses, even ex-spouses and children and stepchildren, and so many questions that we help the individuals fill out. Sometimes it's just with the language itself in filling it out, but also it's so much information that sometimes they have to go back and they want to know how many times they've left the country, what those dates were over the last 5 years. And if you don't have that information at hand, you have to really kind of dig it up sometimes and get that information correct to send in. So there's an application that really starts that process. Then, let's see. Oh, there's also then the part of the fingerprints. And it's interesting that when you first send in your application, you send it in with your check, and the check is $725, so it's quite a bit. It does enable you to take the exam twice. So if you don't pass it the first time, you have another time to try to pass it, but if you don't pass it the second time, then you're really starting all over. Included in that fee is also the fee for fingerprinting. But to keep in mind, what we also ask, or what the people in Des Moines are asking of the individuals, the fingerprinting is done at a separate time. So once they send in the application, then in about a month or so, they get a request to come in and take fingerprints. So that's a day off from work, driving into Des Moines, 15 minutes to give fingerprints, and then driving back. And then later on, of course, on the day of the exam, months down the road, they also are missing another day of work. So there is some extra to it that you have to keep in mind that is we're asking of individuals when they're going through the citizenship process. So then, let's see if make sure I cover all that. I think I did. So that's the application itself. Now, to talk about the elements of the exam. So when the individual is called in for their exam, there are 3 components to the exam. First of all, there's a reading component, and the exam is in English. And so in the reading, the individual is asked, it's a one-on-one situation, it's all done orally, and the individual is asked to read a sentence in English. They have 3 opportunities to get that correct. So if they can't read the first sentence, they're given another sentence. And if they need that third try, they can do that. Okay, then the next component involves writing in English. And once again, there are 3 sentences. And the individual, so the examiner will give the person the sentence. They must write it 100% correctly. So there must be capital letters where capital letters should be, punctuation where punctuation should be, and everything must be spelled correctly. We actually had one of our students not pass because they spelled the word 40 with a U in it. So after all that studying, and then to miss it just by adding an extra letter was pretty devastating, but she passed it the next time. So then the next part, and the part that we really focus on with our students, are those 100 civics questions. There are 100 questions beginning with the Declaration of Independence and going up through modern times. The questions are concerning American history, the structure of the American government, important people in American history. And when we're working with individuals that, first of all, are learning this in a second language, so the vocabulary can be quite rigorous, and also they just don't have a connection. A lot of this is rote. So we try to make a lot of interesting games and activities, and we try to help them connect the information. And so with those civics questions, there are 100 questions, so we study them all. And then the examiner will select 10 questions at random. Now, of those 10 questions, the individual must get 6 of them correct. So we're going to give it a try. Here are your random questions. Okay. Question number 1. You have 10 questions. We're going to see if you can get 6 of them correct. Thank you. Your first question. The Federalist Papers supported the passage of the U.S. Constitution. Name one of the writers. Keep it in your mind. Keep it in your mind. Okay? Okay, I'm going to give you the answer. You either mark it off in your mind as you got it right or you didn't get it right. You keep your own score. Okay, the answer is, could be John Jay, could be James Madison, or Alexander Hamilton. Okay, question number 2. When was the U.S. Constitution written? I need a year. If you said 1787, you are correct. If you didn't, go study. Okay, here we go. Number 3. Who was president during World War I? Oh, World War I. That should be 1. Sorry. Okay. World War I. We know you would have gotten FDR. That's another question, actually. They have to know both presidents there. But you need to know the president of World War I. If you said Woodrow Wilson. Okay. Number 4. Here we go. Name the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Currently. Yes, currently. Okay. If you think it is John Roberts, give yourself a point. And now on to number 5. This is a really good one that a lot of our students are just like, wow, when we learn about what is the rule of law. They come from countries where they really don't have the rule of law. Okay. The rule of law states that no one is above the law. Everyone must follow the law. So if you would have replied something similar to that, good for you. Number 6. This one I selected because I wanted you to think of yourself as an English language learner, because it's kind of a circuitous little way of asking this question when they say before he was a president, Eisenhower was a general. So there's a lot of linguistics in there for second language learners to get. But the question ends up being, what war was he in? If you think it was World War II, you are correct. Number 7. If both the president and vice president can no longer serve, who becomes president? Are you getting that Jeopardy music there? Here we go. Okay. Speaker of the House. Speaker of the House. They also have to, a separate question is they have to name the current Speaker of the House. So I hope you can do that too. But that's an extra question. Don't count that one. Okay, here's number 8. Ooh, what is the supreme law of the land? The Constitution. Money. Okay, 2 more. You should be like 8 and 0 now, right? Okay. Number 9. Oh, here's a good one. Name your U.S. representative. Now, they only have to know theirs, and we're just doing our section of the state here. Okay. Did everybody come up with Marinette Miller Meeks? Okay. And our last one. This is a good way. I picked this because our students want to get involved. They want to know. They're just hungry to know about citizenship and stories from American history, and we add, little things to help them make connections. And here, one of the questions they have to answer are, what are 2 ways that Americans can participate in their democracy? So, of course, the first one you think of is voting. I'm very excited to do that. Then they also qualify answers by saying writing to a politician or writing a letter to a newspaper. Those are ways they can also practice their citizenship. So, I'm not going to ask, but that was just 10 random questions. I could have picked some others that are just, it's how many amendments to the Constitution, talking about checks and balances in the government. There's so many areas, so much new information, and they're doing their very, very best.
I want to ask, how many of you got 6 right?
Oh. Super.
I got us up Bruce's
How many
hand.
didn't? No, you just keep your hands down. Okay. So anyway, that kind of gives you a better feel for what people are having to do. And remember, when they're coming to classes, they've worked all day. They're in a second language. It's just, I don't know. Jan and I, we teach our groups together, and we're just like, oh my goodness, we love what we're doing, and we love the people and just admire them so much. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jan. As I said, she and I have taught ever since the beginning of the program. We're partners, and Jan brings a lot of history living in the community and just teaching, and an overall wonderful person.
I'm very happy to be here this evening. I'm especially happy to be able to share the program with the folks here that I have worked with in this program. They are wonderful individuals, and they're examples to others in many ways. So I have been a resident of West Liberty for almost 50 years, and I am very proud of my small community for many reasons, but perhaps one of the reasons I'm most proud is the way everyone works together, the way everyone feels empathy for each other. And tonight I'm going to be telling you a little bit about who were the partners within the university and the community who made this program possible, who made the naturalization classes actually come into being. First of all, I want to mention the immigrant residents of West Liberty. They were very key community partners. Great motivation, great desire to learn. This was evident from the very beginning. And Carolyn mentioned earlier, on the first night that we organized, we had about 45 students come. They ranged in age from 18 to well over age 65. Many of them were working 2 jobs. They all had family responsibilities, but they came every Thursday night, and they came with a smile. They were excited to learn. They were happy to be there. And we always told them there might be a small homework assignment, but if you don't have time to do it, you come here and we will do the homework together. Another important advocate of this program was the West Liberty School District. They provided space for us to meet, even in the summertime, when we had classes about 8 weeks out of the summer. And so the school was available for us even in the summer. We were very appreciative of that. All of our learning materials, most of which are online, the school printed them for us and made sure that we had enough for each student. And sometimes that was a little tricky because we might plan on 42 and maybe they brought a couple friends, and so we would have to quickly make some more copies, but all of that worked. We had wonderful school maintenance staff who helped us with setup for the classes, helped us clean up afterwards. They were available to bring in extra chairs. If we were missing something that we needed, they were there to help us find what we needed. We had faith-based organizations in West Liberty who assisted especially with the startup of the program. They communicated information with announcements and newsletters and word of mouth so that news about the classes could get out. They contacted potential volunteer tutors to help with the program. Many churches gave monetary donations because we have a scholarship fund that helps with the application fees. So we were very appreciative of this group of folks who were so involved. Support for this program came also from LULAC, which is the League of Latin American Citizens. And in 2017, when we started this program, Ed Moreno was president of that group, and he was very instrumental in spreading the word to potential students. He was also involved in helping with the important financial backing of this program. The University of Iowa College of Law and Brom Elias came to the rescue. As Nancy mentioned earlier, there is a 20-page citizenship application, and this is not without its challenges. So there were law students that came on specified evenings of the class sessions, and these law students would meet either individually or in small groups with students, help them look through the application, help answer questions about it, and we just could not have we could not have helped with the applications in the way that we did without their presence. We appreciate that very much. Trey Suker, who is a lawyer and judge in our area, came one evening and gave a full-hour program in Spanish, also explaining some of the legalities of the application process. And he was able to answer questions, and that was very helpful also. The university was involved in another way, and that involved some college freshmen. There were several West Liberty High School graduates who were multilingual and who were currently freshmen at the university. And they were contacted, and they came and assisted with translating and with some of the tutoring. One of these West Liberty graduates was Michael Aragon, and we just think he and others were such an example of giving back to your home community. Here they were busy freshmen at the U, and they were coming back on a Thursday night to help in their hometown. We really appreciated that. The local newspaper, which is the West Liberty Index, they made sure that readers saw the success stories. Success stories are very important, right? The newspaper published portraits of the adults who passed, told their stories, and this was indeed an encouragement for other students who might want to enroll, but it also was a well-deserved accolade for those students who had studied so hard. In summary, I guess I just want to say that I'm describing a community that was very supportive, very accommodating. There were individuals, there were businesses, the school, the university, civic organizations, and they were all involved in different ways. There was a total effort, to say the least, and this effort had a message, and the message was, we want you to be successful because you belong here. And this is a mural downtown that's painted with beautiful flowers, and in Spanish, as you know, it says, you belong here. So I thank you very much for listening to these partnerships that were so important. And I would like to introduce Dan Stevenson, who is going to tell you a little bit more about the program and what happened. Thank you.
I'm going to interrupt here and say that I consider Dan our Chief Financial Officer and lawyer in residence. He did so much of the background work to help applicants submit their applications and followed up with them if there were questions. And he's going to tell you about how we funded this project.
Thanks, Carolyn, and I appreciated the use of quotes there. I do every time I help complete a application, I have to fill out that I completed it, and I do mark that I am not a lawyer and make that clear to everyone involved. And so I do want to talk about, sort of to expand on what Jan shared about the partnerships and how we're able to make this successful. But I wanted to take a minute first to reflect on the fortuitous timing of this event tonight, today being the International Day of Democracy, which means hopefully a lot to all of us. Myself as an 8th grade U.S. history teacher, also I am a poll worker for the Johnson County Auditor's Office. So I see one of the real values of citizenship for our participants is being able to participate fully in our democracy, to vote and to be able to influence our system. Additionally, it is, and I'll use the official title of it, although the language is dated, it is the start of National Hispanic Heritage Month, starting today and tomorrow, today being the date marking Central American independence, tomorrow being the date marking the beginning of the Mexican independence, and this being an official holiday, a week starting with Lyndon Johnson and a month starting under Ronald Reagan. And so that was something that was, I spoke about with my students today in West Liberty. And then finally, we will round out our weekend with Constitution Day, September 17th, since 1787, as you guys all answered correctly earlier, with the ratification of the Constitution. Actually, that was 1789. And so, no, that is, yeah. And so I think one of the things I like, these are things I teach 8th graders, and I take advantage of National Constitution Day as a way to consider who are we the people. And that's sort of the framing that I use throughout my class. We start with early U.S. history through the Civil War, and so we talk about who is included as we the people, and obviously when the Constitution was written, that was a very limited few, and so I like to on National Constitution Day trace how that's expanded over time, and I think what I'm so proud of the work that this program has done and that so many people have done is that we are able to continue that expansion to the individual people in our community to be brought fully in to that idea of who we the people are. Perhaps one of my proudest moments through this program was working the election in 2020 in masks. It was quite a thing, and one of the voters at the precinct was one of our program graduates who was voting for the first time, which was, I can't tell you how incredible that felt. So, like I said, this is a wonderful timing for us, wonderful program that I've been so proud to be a part of and to work with these people. Our financial support, I think, has been one of the things that has helped make this successful. As Nancy shared earlier, the cost is $725. I know as a teacher, that's a lot of money. As someone who's working and supporting a family, that's a lot of money. And so I've been proud throughout the program that we've been able to cover half that cost for all of our participants, over 50 now that have gone through. And the way we've been able to do that is through taking advantage of that sense of a community. And I mean that taking advantage in a positive way of the sense of a community in West Liberty, where people are eager to help and eager to be a part of helping grow the community and improve the community. Some specific people I would like to recognize, Jan mentioned Ed and Dr. Carol Moreno, who run the local, one of the local dentists' offices there in West Liberty, who founded our fund, initiated our fund with a $2,000 donation. We've received donations as well from First Church United, the Rotary. I'll acknowledge Bill Koellner, Jan's husband here, is an integral part in West Liberty Rotary, who's been a continuing supporter of the program. Also the West Liberty Community Fund, the Lesh Smith Family Foundation, Dave Lesh and his family kindly donated. And Virginia Meehee is a community member in West Liberty who has been engaged with our program and offered generous financial support. On that note, we still do have funds, and we are still helping people who apply. While we are no longer engaged at the level that we were when we had to stop in 2020, on an ad hoc basis, Jan and Nancy have started working with students again, and we are offering scholarships again. If anyone would like to join that illustrious list, feel free to talk to me, and I can help you support our program if that's something you might be able to do. I also wanted to, in addition, lawyer in residence. I did want to acknowledge, I think what's made this program possible is those connections. Working with Trey Suker, who, beyond coming and speaking to our program, we had a woman that Jan and Nancy were working with recently, and they came to me and we talked about her issues, and it was great to have an attorney that I could text and say, this is my reading of the situation, is this correct? Has been a huge help. And then one more, Rosa Mendoza, who runs the Diversity Services Center of Iowa in Muscatine, has been another great asset to our program in helping participants to be able to, jump, for lack of a better word, jump through those hoops that they need to attain citizenship. So thank you so much. We had hoped to have one or two of our participants be able to join us this evening, and unfortunately, they were unable to come this evening, but one of our volunteers, integral part of the program, Erica Jennings, who is my colleague in the West Liberty Community School District, teaches English, would like to share a little bit more.
I was really hoping that I could push the heavy lifting onto our participants, so this is really unfortunate for me. But so as Dan said, I worked as a volunteer. I got to do the fun part, so they did a lot of the behind-the-scenes things, and I got to annoy Dan with questions whenever my participants didn't know, like, legal stuff or questions for the application. So I got to lead groups and worked as a teacher for all of the adult students who wanted to become citizens. So that was very fun. So a couple things. As you all saw, the content is riveting, really exciting stuff. I've never seen so many flashcards in my life. So essentially the structure of the classes, we met for an hour and a half every Thursday. We were all exhausted, but our groups were really fun. I mean, I had a lot of the process. Once you send your application in, at the time that we started, it took almost a year before they would have their actual interview, which means we had lots of time to learn material. But it got very monotonous. It's 100 questions that you're essentially memorizing the answers to. A lot of the students didn't have formal education. I know there were people in my group who went to school through 3rd grade or 6th grade. So they didn't really have any background information to connect this United States history test essentially to. So a lot of our time was spent literally memorizing these flashcards. It was not very fun content-wise, but we had a good time, I think, with it. So there was that, and then also the application, which we talked about. It's a very daunting document, and when they go in for their interview, essentially they're asked all of the questions on their application again. And I think that was the most intimidating part for a lot of the applicants. They were worried that they would say something that was different than what they had on their application. And keep in mind, none of these people spoke English as their first language. So you have a scary immigration officer asking you how many times you've left the country in the past 5 years and giving exact dates. So we spent a lot of time just going through their applications, especially when participants had their interviews coming up. So that was kind of the format of the class. I guess one other thing, I was also responsible for providing babysitters. We had a lot of teens running around with a lot of little kids to make it possible for the adults to come to these classes. So that was good. So I was grouped with people who had pretty high English proficiency, but just keep in mind that most of the time meant that they had conversational English, and a lot of these questions were a lot of them used like legal terminology, so there was a lot of confusion there. So while we would study the questions in English in my group, there were a lot of times where there needed to be clarification in Spanish. For participants who are, let's see, I wrote this down, over the age of 65 who have also lived in the United States for 20 or more years, they do have the ability to take a different form of the test. So they're able to have the test questions in their native language rather than in English. And also it's a shorter set of questions. So instead of memorizing 100 questions, they only have to memorize, I think it was 20. So, so if you wait till you're 65, you got it a little bit easier, but 20 years is a long time. And then let's see what else. Okay, so I said at the beginning when we first started classes, it took around 11 to 12 months for people to actually get in. Around 2019, 2020, it started to get a little bit faster. They started sending people to Kansas City and Des Moines. So the process picked up. I think 6 months became more normal, but still it's a lot of time to practice these questions. Oh yeah, okay. So we do have a photo of one of our first graduates. So the top right photo, he and one of his friends came back after getting his citizenship and helped tutor class. So he would come back to my group and he always brought friends with him, so we had a lot of new participants. But it was really cool to see them get involved, because I think that's part of the point was that, okay, yes, you're becoming a citizen, you have that sense of security, but then also to see them continue to be involved even after they got their citizenship was really cool. And same with, I had high school students who would come with me and help out with translating and things like that. And so it really was very impressive to see how many people in the community got involved with it. Carolyn, anything else you want me to add? Okay, I'm sorry, I thought I would have a participant joining me. They're a lot more interesting than I am, but thank you.
These are the two participants we hoped. Oh. These are the two participants that we invited to join us. Omar just got a new job with the Army Corps of Engineers and is traveling across Iowa. And Mylene Vargas is one of our wonderful new citizens whose family is from Ecuador. We want to acknowledge Dorian, Aragon, Hakis for compiling all of our documents in this wonderful PowerPoint. Dorian is a graduate of West Liberty High School, and he's currently employed in the College of Education, which is terrific. If you're interested in reading some additional things about the history of the naturalization test, there are a couple of sources that I recommend. Noah Pickus is a political science professor from Duke University, and the first book, Immigration and Citizenship in the 21st Century, is fascinating. I've always described this test as really a literacy test. So returning to that question about who is a good citizen, I'd love to have some conversation about whether literacy is the kind of test we want to be asking of people who want to join the U.S. as new citizens. The last link is where we found so many wonderful resources for the citizenship test. The U.S. Nationalization and Immigration Office provides a wealth of information with the citizenship questions, the naturalization questions, published in multiple languages. And we urge you to go to that link to learn more about what's available. And with that, we'll open up for questions.
Yes. This is the Q&A portion. If you do have a question, please raise your hand and I will bring the microphone to you. Giving you a moment to think. ICFRC, we want to thank our supporters and donors for their support. And if you would like to become a supporter of ICFRC or make a gift to our programs, please go to icfrc.org, where there are some signs, like in the front of the room, where you can use a QR code. Questions? Yes.
I'm a Title I teacher at a small private school that has about 35% English learners. So we have quite a challenge ahead of us. A lot of Africans, but some Spanish speakers as well. I want to know, did you use a specific curriculum for teaching English to the adults? And how did you assess when they were ready to take the exam?
I had, in a different room in West Liberty, I worked with Richard Barajas, a grad student at the University of Iowa, and we helped those folks who were beginning to learn English. And once they were ready and felt confident, we sent them to various groups in the citizenship portion. So that's kind of how it was really not really any rhyme or reason, but after we worked with some of the adults for a while, we could tell that they were ready to move on to the citizenship test. Erica mentioned that we had flashcards galore that the adults took home with the question on the front and answers on the back. Dan was great about supplying these for us. I'll let somebody else answer that question. And what you want to add to it?
And did you ask about like when we knew they were ready for the test itself? So what Jan and I do is we go in order pretty much of the questions, and when they get to about 50 of them, we send in the application because, as Erica said, it takes a long time to be called in, and so that then gives us time to finish up the other 50. But we do not only the flashcards, but we do bingo, we do role playing, we do the answer questions as Thomas Jefferson, they'll ask, so tell us about writing the Constitution, and just all those things. We just try to shake it up as much as we can, give some variety, but we do time it so that by the time they get that notice to come in for the test, they've had time to finish the questions and time to review. So they're pretty, ready to go.
So it's not an English test, it's just can you read this and can you answer these questions? Is that correct?
When the adults come, we spend time talking to them and get an idea about whether they're ready to join one of the citizenship groups. Sometimes we have them completely in Spanish to start out, and then we move them to groups where the high school students were so helpful because they could translate for us and sit beside an adult. So we had some groups where the adults were really very ready. Erica's group, and most of the instruction then, I would say all of the instruction happened in English. Would you say?
We supplemented with Spanish, but for the most part. Sorry.
Sorry, so I'm sorry to dominate, but so as you can tell, I sort of would like to see something like this happen, but it would have to be a multilingual environment, which makes everything more challenging.
Just one thing to add. As far as literacy on the test portion, they do have to read one sentence, and it comes from a list of vocabulary that I believe on that link there's a list of vocabulary. It would be something like Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, or the flag is red, white, and blue. So sentences similar to that. So they have to read one sentence. Basically, the interviewer points to a sentence, says, read this in English, and then they do have to write a sentence. I believe they have 3 tries to write a sentence.
And then is the interview in their home language or in English?
I think only if they're over the age of 65 and have been in the country for 20 years. Otherwise, the interview part, which is why I think that's the most intimidating, because if you're comfortable with the questions, that's one thing, but if a scary person's asking you all of these questions about your life, your children, everything, I think that's at least in my experience, that was the part that brought the most anxiety to my group members.
And I'll share here locally, Iowa City Compassion, iccompassion.org, has a lot of experience working with more linguistically and ethnically diverse populations. So Teresa Stecker is a West Libertarian, actually, who runs that program. It's fantastic.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
After the students complete the activities, they fill out this form. Are there legal implications along the line that they may have incurred during their time in the United States that would prohibit them from getting citizenship?
So the application entails it's a 5-year look back. And so we have had participants who'd been previously deported, but that was outside of that 5-year look back window. And so for those items, as long as they are disclosed, they are not, they won't preclude passing and gaining citizenship. We did have one participant, quite sadly, who had never been arrested, but between submitting his application and his interview had gotten a DUI. And so he showed up for his interview, but was denied on moral grounds because of that. And so with that 5-year look back, he had to wait until 5 years after the end of his sentence. And so I'm pleased to say that he is past that window now and is looking at applying again. So.
For a DUI, wow.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yes.
You said that the program is not running now. Is there a reason why not? And if so, are there certain barriers keeping it from coming back? Or is there a reason? I'm just curious as to, it seems like it's such an amazing program.
We have a smaller program that Nancy and Jan are offering at a local church. We're lucky that they can meet there. Because of COVID, and if you're from Iowa, you know how much COVID was involved in the local meatpacking plant. We haven't gotten permission yet from the school administration to return. We're a big group when we attend, and the cleanup afterwards, anticipating COVID, was a lot of work. So we haven't gone back. We hope to.
Yes, I'll come to you. No, we want to use this for the recording. I can run.
Thank you. My apologies if this was already explained. Did the university provide any programmatic or support? Was there any measurement of the impact of this in any publications that were derived from this intervention? Thank you.
Let me respond honestly and say that the university's in a new place now where maybe we're more siloed than we would like to be. Interdisciplinary work is not as valued as it used to be. I've been at the university for many years, and I feel like I can say this. And there's a tendency for scholars, and new scholars included, to publish for our peers. And there's less interest in recognizing research of this kind where you engage with communities. I don't know if that's a fair statement or not, but that's my impression.
With the people that have gone through this program that have achieved or that have been rewarded with citizenship, I don't know if earned, if that's the better word, since they do all the work. Have you seen an impact on how the local community is engaged with each other as they all come together and, you know, they're building their own community of people who are studying for this, right? Does that have a lasting impact on the greater West Liberty community, and how have you maybe seen that?
I guess I would answer that by saying on a one-to-one basis, I think there is an effect in that when someone passes the exam, their whole family rejoices, the whole neighborhood rejoices, and then that person in his enthusiasm or in her enthusiasm is able to reach out and perhaps help others. Were you going to comment something about the festival?
Well, I was going to have you do it since you're.
No. Okay. And also, Nancy's prompting me. We have a Latino festival in West Liberty from 3 to 10 p.m. tomorrow with music and food and dancing and lots of fun things. I think it's those kinds of opportunities that bring people together, you know, when they can also share, I heard about Javier. How was that, Javier? And so I think to answer your question, a lot of it is just maybe on one-to-one, family-to-family, neighbor-to-neighbor kind of thing.
And to expand on that, a lot of people who got their citizenship told their friends and brought their friends with them to class to encourage them to go. A lot of them came back and would talk about their experiences. We had a lot of celebrations, and they would just tell everyone else who's studying what the interview process was like. So that was really encouraging, and they were kind of mentors to them in that way. And Mylene, who was supposed to be here this evening, she brought her cousin. Her daughter was in my group with her after she got her citizenship. She helped her husband start studying for the questions. So there is a lot of involvement. They're trying to get as many people as they can to participate and get their citizenship as well.
And we will take absolutely no credit for it from the program, but it is absolutely worth noting West Liberty did become the first majority Latino community, as Carolyn noted, and in 2021, for the first time in the state of Iowa, elected a majority Latino city council. So absolutely huge.
I'm going to brag just a little bit. I received funding in May from the VPR's office to continue a community engagement project that stemmed from comments from a couple of the people who became citizens who said to Dan and me when we were interviewing them about the benefit of the program, they said, "We're citizens, now what do we do?" And it was kind of like, how did we forget to talk about the next steps? So with this grant, in partnership with the City Council, the school district, Rotary, we are engaging in a civic participation program to introduce new citizens to aspects of the community. What is it like to run for office? Will you serve on the Planning and Zoning Committee? Some of these deeply felt needs of rural communities that may portend their future growth. they need civic participation. They need people who will volunteer and get involved. So I think the next step is helping some of these now new citizens become involved, run for the school board. Three openings on the school board. I think, how many openings on the city council? Three. Planning and zoning is a big issue in West Liberty, as it is in so many rural communities that are trying to bring in neighborhoods to increase their tax base. So civic participation is critical, and maybe we can come back in 2 years and tell you how it worked.
Carolyn, that's exciting. Is this on? Nancy, I wanted to pick your brain for a minute. After having a dual language program in the school for 25 years, it's almost like you guys came to a perfect storm. Did you see that students that had come up through the program encouraged their parents to become citizens? They wanted to be citizens. And what were they doing before? I don't, if anyone was even trying to go through the naturalization process.
Well, honestly, I don't know what was happening before, but I can tell you that, yes, with the dual language program, and the kids were very proud when their parents were in classes and they could share that, and I could even say, oh, I saw your mom last night, you know, and all that. Very proud to have their parents. And in fact, Jan and I have a couple in our class right now that I remember their little girl in class going up, and she is now in a PhD program in social work, and I just can only imagine how proud she is of her parents getting their citizenship. It really is a family, as Jan was saying. The family is so, so proud. I also wanted to kind of comment on the question about the program not being as active as it was. And COVID did a lot. COVID did a real number on the program. But what Jan and I have found is that the need is definitely there. It was earlier this year that I just had a message from somebody. They found me somehow, and they said, I hear you're teaching citizenship. Would you start a class? So I called Jan up, and I said, let's do it. And she's like, okay. So we thought we'd have one student, and so we did. We had one student. This gentleman showed up. And we said, if you have friends, it'd be more fun, because we'll get more activity, and we'll do a lot more things. And how many did we have the next week? We had like about 7 more or something, you know. And we would even have more, but we're just taking this one group through, and then we'll start another class. So the need is definitely there, and I'm hoping that as we can get through some of the requirements of COVID, as we're seeing some uptick in the numbers again, but to get the program going again, the need is definitely there. So did I answer your question about that? Because it really is fun when the kids are so excited about the parents.
Erica, talk about one of your students that you had in class, and on Thursday nights you taught a parent.
Oh, I don't know how much you want me to say about that, but yeah, I mean, I had parents of students in class, and I did have some of my teenage students who knew that I volunteered in the program. A lot of them would ask me questions in class about how they can help their parents get citizenship, maybe those who worked in the evenings and weren't able to attend classes. And then even some students asked about like getting citizenship themselves too. So it was just them knowing that I was involved in it also opened that conversation for a lot of them as well.
Yeah. And sometimes getting the word out is really important. Like right now, Dan, he'll send parents of students that you've had in class that are ready for our next group. And
absolutely. No, I still have people that come to me. I mean, I think the full undertaking that we did was intense in terms of time, in terms of effort, in terms of the resources that we all put in. It kind of feels like the pace right now is a little more sustainable for all of us while still being able to help people. But yeah, no, I had a guy call me last week at the end of the school day and from Muscatine, and he said, I heard you help with citizenship. And, I said, well, yes. And I said, and where did you get my phone number from? And he said, Catherine. And I said, oh, what's her last name? Well, I don't know. So, and I never did figure out, but I met with him on Wednesday and got him paperwork, and we're getting started. Yeah.
So a couple of comments. My name's Bill, and my wife's at the table at the front. This weekend is the International Children's Festival, and then following that will be the Latino Festival. We'll have over 3,000 or more people come to town to enjoy the culture of West Liberty. So if you go down the streets of West Liberty and talk to young people, why did you move to West Liberty? Well, we searched the internet and we found that you have a dual language program. A dual language program which brings people because of the education system. Next is you talk to the people who are residents, not only Anglos, but Hispanics and Laotians. The majority of these people have children who have gone to a university, have now graduated in engineering, law, and other medical fields, graduating out of West Liberty because of the quality education, because they support us. I'm on the West Liberty Endowment Fund, and we've partially fund this scholarship program, but part of our group is made up of Hispanic people who sit on the commission with me. So they are becoming involved. We want them to get more involved. As Dan said, the majority of the city council is Hispanic. And it's a great place to get involved in our community.
We have a Fulbright scholar from the University of Iowa going to Spain. Talk about her, Erica.
Yeah, so one of my former students, should I name her? I don't know. Rebecca Lara. Yes. So she reached out to me. So actually, she was in my first year teaching. She was a sophomore in my English class, and I had just gotten done student teaching in Spain. And so she said that sounded like something she wanted to do. So she reached out to me recently that she was awarded a Fulbright scholarship. And so now she's teaching in Spain, and it's very exciting to see, yeah.
This whole process seems like such a tremendous undertaking for the students, and you were talking about how people continue to reach out to you to ask for advice. I'm curious if you know, can people go through this process without this type of assistance? It seems nearly impossible, really.
If for someone who has not had any legal complications, it can be fairly straightforward. I met with another family here locally that one of our participants introduced me to, and I met with them, and they said the requirements for the residency were actually more onerous in terms of everything from medical and employment records. That it is doable, but there's just lots of places where one can get sort of caught up, and there is a cottage industry around, people that do what I do. I know there was a woman locally who charged $200 to prepare the application and get it in, and to make sure all the boxes were checked correctly. But it is possible, yes.
We do it for free.
Right. Yes, 100%.
I really wanted to thank everyone's work, the panelists' work, for helping people going through this journey. I'm going through another route myself, so I know how hard it is. And my question is, I kind of want to go back to the question of what is considered a good citizenship, and I'm just kind of curious from your experience helping people going through this process. in addition to like knowing English and knowing American history, what if there are other qualities or characteristics that you see that helps make a person to be considered eligible to become a U.S. citizen? Or what do you think from the application process, from the government's perspective, what do they, from those process, what the ideal type of U.S. citizens can be discerned from this process?
I'm going to start and then I'll turn it over. Many of the people who come to our program and the discussions we have around citizenship involve bringing stories from their home countries where corruption is rampant. When we say no one is above the law, they scoff. It's not something they have experienced. So it's been rewarding for all of us to maybe affirm just how the citizenship process really can work with when a community like West Liberty decides to take this on, and it really is a community effort. I think in response to your question, it affirms for us that there are many good things about this country that we need to be reminded of. Somebody else want to respond to that?
I mean, I'd say the entire process is, Carolyn used the term earlier of a literacy test, the whole process is unnecessarily bureaucratic for, who should be a citizen, who deserves, every single person that's come through our doors, deserves it on coming through the doors for engagement in the community, engagement in their children's lives, work in the community. It is, we as a community are fortunate for every single one of these people. So.
Yeah.
Given the time, I'm going to ask one final question. I'm wondering for folks that are sitting in the room, or those that are watching the live stream or perhaps the recording later, who are inspired by the work that you're doing and want to be a part of it, is it possible to volunteer with you? What would it take to do that? Who would they contact if that's possible?
I will say this. I mean, the way that we are working right now, we do have the funds available, and so one of the legacies of our full-on program was fundraising, that we do have funds. If anyone is at all interested in working with students on whatever schedule would work for you, I can guarantee you we can help set that up. I think one of the things, and I know when, before we stopped it all, our program of having everyone work, at a set time all together was great in terms of bringing everyone together, but it definitely didn't work for all of our volunteers and all of our participants. So if there is someone that is, interested in working with a single person to help, we can certainly help with supplies and help that person apply. So feel free to get a hold of me. And my information is very easily found.
I will say that for people who want to volunteer, you need to make a commitment to a program like this. Our adults sometimes take 2 years to go through this process. So you've got to be there with them if you decide that you want to work to help someone become a naturalized citizen. The commitment is critical, and that's during our program when we had 50, 60 people a night on Thursdays. I think it was a commitment of our time that that we all recognized. And as Erica said, we were exhausted on Thursday nights, although we left invigorated because of the conversations and the commitment of the participants.
With that, I want to thank once again our fabulous panel and the incredible work that they've been doing for this program. Please give them a round of applause. This was ICFRC's 4th program of the fall. I want to tell you a little bit about our next program, which is actually kind of in line. It will feature Dr. Amy Erica Smith from Iowa State University, and she'll be speaking about, is Brazil at a tipping point? Democracy and climate change. Join us for that program on Wednesday, the 27th of September, right here at the Iowa City Public Library, to learn how Brazil is handling forest fires in the Amazon and a mob storming the presidential palace. And despite these threats, people in Brazil are hopeful about their future. With that, I thank you, and we are adjourned.